What's up, fantasy football community? It's your boy Disco. Now, week one is pretty much in the books as I'm recording. It's September 9th, 2024. The Monday night football game between the San Francisco 49ers and the New York Jets has not been played, but there is a lot of football games that we need to break down and help you guys navigate winning your leagues and winning your fantasy football championship. With that being said, a lot of teams won by 3 touchdowns. That'll probably finish with the record of 6 wins. And, some of them who got absolutely blown out and destroyed are probably going to make it to the playoffs, maybe even make a deep run in the playoffs as well. There's a lot to take away, a lot to break down. Do not overreact. Let me tell you how to approach your waiver wire and how to spend your fab. So I'm going to present to you my top 5 waiver wire additions that you need to spend some fab on. And we'll also let you know how much fab you probably should spend on these players and on these guys, because some of these guys are absolute league winners. And then at the end, after we go through our top 5, I'm going to go through all the honorable mentions. But without further ado, let's talk about the first guy, and some brilliant guy on Twitter, okay, with an ominous, tweet says, here's the thing, I'm probably wrong. Derrick Henry, 2 or more touchdowns. He scored 1, whatever. But listen here. The Isaiah Likely tweet, the call here was absolutely spectacular. And look at the time, 3:13 a.m., September 5th. So well before the Thursday kickoff. Look at the Isaiah Likely portion. It says, Isaiah Likely, anytime touchdown, plus emerges as a viable meant to say flex, but whatever, 3:13 a.m., my eyes are hardly open. Viable flex option and wide receiver 1 for Baltimore. Whoever tweeted that, one, you need to go follow him on Twitter, because he was bang on. He was absolutely, it's eerie how right he was. All right, I'm done patting myself on the back. But let's talk about the first guy. That's Isaiah Likely. All right. He was absolutely spectacular. He did everything we said he would do. He was not just on the field, the vast majority of the time with a 66% snap share. He was, more often than not, Lamar Jackson's first read when he's going to throw the ball. Not only does Lamar Jackson rely on this guy, not only was this game a spectacular game, but, and that's a major but, we can project for the rest of the season that this kind of production is something to be expected. Did we see Isaiah Likely at his ceiling? Potentially, but we have not seen his floor yet. He is a viable flex option. He's definitely startable at the tight end position. If you're in a deeper league, you must 100% pick him up, because he's only rostered in 18.3% of fantasy leagues right now. He had 26.1 fantasy points in week 1, led all other tight ends, was one of the top performers on the week. He had 53 total snaps, 66% snap share. He was on the field with Mark Andrews, and he was the first read with Mark Andrews on the field. He was the first read with Zay Flowers on the field and Rashad Bateman, but nobody took the Bateman. All right. He was targeted 12 out of 41 dropbacks for Lamar Jackson, which was 29%. He had 9 receptions, 111 yards, and a touchdown. Should have been a second touchdown, but he's got, a cleat that's a size too big. It is what it is. His usage was absolutely elite. He lined up absolutely everywhere. And once again, guys, he was Lamar Jackson's first read more often than not. Spend all of your fab. Spend all of your fab. All of it. What are you waiting for? Go get him. All right, on to number 2. Now, this next performance was absolutely terrible. The New York Giants really, really struggled and really sucked. But there was one shining light. Yes, Malik Neighbors was great, but this is a waiver wire video. This isn't, this is the rookie you need to draft. It's a waiver wire video. And Wandel Robinson, he's available. He's only rostered in 8.3% of the leagues. Okay, here's why I like him. Yes, he had, a measly 11.8 fantasy points in week 1. This is PPR format, by the way. But he had 68% snap share. That's 48 total snaps that he played on the field. He was targeted 12 out of 42 dropbacks for Danny Dimes, or Danny throws pesos, whatever, man. That's 28.5 target share, right? He had 6 receptions, but was targeted 12 times. He had 1 rush attempt also, which was, pretty spectacular, pretty efficient. He had 14 rushing yards on a team that was absolutely terrible. That we know that Danny Pesos, needs to get his check down more often than not. We need to target the most valuable check down target that, Danny, I got to stop calling him Danny Dimes, but Daniel Jones needs to rely on. Once again, it's a struggling offense. The check down volume and the target share means we only saw Wandel at his floor in week 1. Should the passes become a little bit more accurate, should the usage become a little bit higher, he's 100% a fringe wide receiver 2-3, and definitely a viable flex option. You need to start him moving forward. I would say 50% of your fab needs to go towards this guy. Get him. All right, this next guy, holy crapamundo, he is the definition of overcoming adversity and proving a lot of people wrong, including myself. This guy has no Achilles, no ACL, no MCL, but yet J.K. Dobbins still balled the hell out. Now, a lot of teams do have him, okay? Especially if you're in a deeper league. But if you're in a not so deep league with a shallower bench, you got to target J.K. Dobbins. He's rostered in 63% of the leagues. He had 23 fantasy points in week 1 against a pretty good Raiders run defense. He had 58% snap share, so he's very efficient. So 33 total snaps. He was targeted 3 out of 26 dropbacks for Justin Herbert. That's 11.54% of the targets when Justin Herbert dropped back. He had 3 receptions for 4 yards. Nothing tremendous, but the 3 receptions, especially in PPR format, is pretty nice. He had 10 rush attempts for 135 yards. That's 13.5 rushing yards per attempt, and he had a rushing touchdown. He also has an excellent, one of the best week 2 matchups for the running back position against the atrocious Carolina Panthers run D, who allowed 34 fantasy points to running backs in week 1. Get him. Go get him. Go get him. Don't worry about the injuries. Dude is, he's him. He's healthy. He's ready to go. Go get him. All right. Up next. Now, this person is somebody who I was fading in a lot of my best ball drafts, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I'm not fading him anymore. I'm claiming him in waiver wire, especially with Kenneth Walker III, K9. He's dealing with a little bit of an abdominal injury. Now, he's not just a pure handcuff situation either. This is none other than Zach Charbonnet, Pop the Charbonnet. He's rostered in 54% of the leagues. So once again, there are a couple of leagues, and if he's available in your league, please spend some fab on him because, should Kenneth Walker be injured, he has a tremendous opportunity to be a league winner. He had 12.1 fantasy points PPR format in week 1. He had 34% of the snap share, so he was definitely efficient with 23 total snaps. He was targeted 3 out of 25 times, which was 12%, 2 receptions for 29 receiving yards and 1 receiving TD. He had 8 rushing attempts. He didn't do much with his rushing attempts, but he had 12 yards. So we know that this offense is going to want to run the ball. Obviously, they have a 3-headed monster at the wide receiver position, but still against, not the greatest, Denver Broncos pass defense, they struggled. They struggled because the guy who's throwing the ball, Geno Smith, even though he had a spectacular outing, is still not the best quarterback out there. So the run game is going to be relied upon early and often. Once again, guys, he has an incredible efficiency on a per touch basis. With Walker abdominal injury, should he see more field time, Charbonnet can be a league winner. 100% should be a league winner. All right, this next guy, I hate that I'm saying this. He had a terrible outing, but we're not just looking at, the baseline end of game performance. We're looking at all the numbers. We're looking at, every single possible angle. And even though the Denver Broncos run game between Javonte Williams, Jalil McLaughlin, and Audric Estime was absolutely atrocious, there are some positive takeaways, believe it or not. Now, their matchups for the next 5-6 weeks, they probably have one advantageous matchup against a run D. Definitely not their week 2 matchup against Pittsburgh Steelers. I would avoid starting this guy and Javonte and anybody else from Denver against Pittsburgh because that Pittsburgh defense is real. But number 5, guys, and I'll tell you why. Don't yell at me. Don't yell at me. And this is going to be very controversial. Number 5. I hate to say this. I'm dragging this. All right. Okay. Number 5, Jalil McLaughlin. Okay. He's rostered in only 39% of leagues. He had 5.8 fantasy points in week 1. Absolutely atrocious. But here's where I'm encouraged, and here's where I'm projecting him to be a little bit more efficient with the volume that he's gotten his way. 35% snap share, 24 total snaps. He was targeted 5 out of 45 dropbacks by Bo Nix. That's 11%. He had 5 receptions on 5 targets, so very efficient. in terms of catching the ball, not a single drop, but he only had 1 receiving yard. That should change moving forward, especially in these top defense difficult matchups. He had 10 rushing attempts for 27 yards. He also has a horrible week 2 matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers elite front 7. But Bo Nix, he showed us that he is the check down king. So look for the volume to continue going his way in the passing game. Mix that up with his game-breaking speed. He might be an excellent flex play in PPR format. I really hate saying it. I really do hate saying it. But based off of what I saw there, that was a very positive takeaway. Now, I know you guys may disagree. If you guys do disagree, please leave a comment. But now we're going to hit our honorable mentions. If we left anybody on the list that should be on the list, please leave a comment in there. Also, shout out to our partners, Drafters Fantasy Sports. We had 4 locks, and we hit 4 locks. That's a pick 'em prop. We had this one, which was $5 to win 50. Not bad. And then we also had this one, which was $21 to win 210. We had 2 other ones. I just didn't upload it yet. But without further ado, by the way, please like the video. And if you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. But without further ado, here's our honorable mentions. We're going to go rapid fire style with these fellas. We'll start with Justice Hill, who I've been beating that drum. Is he startable in redraft? Probably not. If they go against tougher defenses, I recommend playing Justice Hill as a flex play simply because second and long, third and long, Derrick Henry is going to come off of the field. And if Derrick Henry comes off of the field, especially PPR format, Justice Hill is going to get you a lot of points as a check down option. Ray McCloud for the Atlanta Falcons emerged as one of the more reliable receiving targets for Kirk Cousins there. It wasn't Darnell Mooney. It wasn't Drake London. That one hurt. It wasn't, Kyle Pitts did his thing, but Ray McCloud, he had a couple opportunities. He made the most out of the opportunities, especially in 3 wide receiver sets. I anticipate this is only going to continue. Once again, don't spend a lot of fab on these guys, but if they're available, pick them up. Malik Willis, he has an opportunity. What do I think he's going to do with that opportunity? Not much, but he's going to be a starting quarterback, and especially in a super flex league, a starting quarterback can be valuable. Tucker Kraft had quite a bit of snap share. He was targeted more than Luke Musgrave. He was more efficient than Luke Musgrave. Luke Musgrave was a non-factor. Tucker Kraft, especially with a horrible Malik Willis, who's probably not going to spread the ball downfield too much, is going to be a great check down option. Theo Johnson was targeted 4 times, only caught 1 ball for 18 yards. So he wasn't very efficient, but the target share is very encouraging. Daniel Bellinger was only targeted 1 time for less than 13 yards on the reception. Jalen Naylor is a great waiver wire acquisition, great waiver wire pickup with the Jordan Addison news of him being injured, going down with an ankle. Something that you need to consider is he's a great returner. So the possibility of return points are there, but he's also now officially the wide receiver 2. Tank Bigsby, a guy who I was completely against, a guy who I faded a heck of a lot. He was in the mix, and he actually outproduced. If we're just talking about rushing yards, he outproduced Travis Etienne. It looks like a timeshare. Should anything happen to Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby's value is going to skyrocket. Quentin Johnston, he was second on the team in terms of targets, and he brought the targets in. He had good opportunity, deep ball opportunity. Justin Herbert seems to rely on him, seems to like him a lot. Quentin Johnston is worth a stash. KJ Osborne, it wasn't Demario Douglas. It wasn't Jalen Polk. It wasn't Jerome Baker. Jerome Baker was actually a healthy scratch. It was KJ Osborne who received the vast majority of the targets from Jacoby Brissett for my Patriots, who also beat the Cincinnati Bengals. We also called that. Let's go. Greg Dortch was absolutely tremendous. He was efficient. He had 66% usage on the field. Snap share, and he made the most of it. He had 4 receptions, great PPR stash, could be a great flex play. Alec Pierce was absolutely tremendous. I have no idea what the hell happened here. Honestly, this was a very weird one for me. But he had 3 receptions, 143 yards, plus a receiving touchdown. Absolutely spectacular. Miles Sanders, Jonathan Mingo, 2 guys on really, really, really shitty teams. But here's the thing. Jonathan Mingo had quite a bit of targets, and he led the team in receptions. That doesn't say much, but the matchups are going to only get better. The next 5 out of 6 matchups are against favorable defenses. Miles Sanders split carries, but was more efficient than Chuba Hubbard with his touches, and he also got involved in getting targeted in the receiving game. Miles Sanders might be a great pickup. Jamal Williams found the end zone. God forbid anything happens to Alvin Kamara. Jamal Williams will have clear utilization, and he also appears to be their goal line guy. So, yeah, this next one, I hate to say it, so I'm not going to say it. Alexander Mattison, he might be a great handcuff play for the underwhelming, underperforming Zamir White, who I was very bullish on. Don't want to talk about it. Bucky Irving was absolutely tremendous, super efficient on a per-touch basis. God forbid anything happens to Rachaad White. Bucky Irving is an absolute league winner. If he's available, pick him up. These next guys might not be available, these next two, but if they are, especially in the Superflex, Geno Smith is a great add. We saw him run for a 30-yard touchdown. Now he becomes the second oldest player to run for a 30-yard touchdown, second to only Adrian Peterson. Pretty interesting tidbit right there. Baker Mayfield, I wrote him off. I shouldn't have. He was absolutely spectacular. He did not need Canales. Chris Godwin looked great. Baker Mayfield looked great. Jordan Akins was second for the Cleveland Browns when it came to targets. He had 3 or 4 receptions, I believe, this past week, with David Njoku being out with an injury, which is a high ankle sprain, which usually goes for 4 to 6 weeks recovery time. Jordan Akins will be relied upon, and he also has history with the terrible Deshaun Watson. As a great check down option, Jordan Akins might be worth a pickup, might be worth a stash, especially if your tight ends are not performing. Josh Oliver, him and Munt both look like, they're going to have some usage and some upside until TJ Hawkinson comes back. Sam Darnold looked tremendous. He looked very efficient, but it's hard to project, especially against a Giants defense, which I thought was better, but a terrible Giants defense. Luke Schoonmaker may be a very, very, very great add. I like the idea of picking up Luke Schoonmaker. I have put a waiver request in on him everywhere. I was very bullish on him as a rookie, but Jake Ferguson had a spectacular year. With that being said, Jake Ferguson's now out with an MCL sprain. Typical, or quite like the Jordan Love situation, we're anticipating that he'll be out anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. So Luke Schoonmaker for the next 4 to 6 weeks is a very, very great start on a very powerful Dallas Cowboys offense. We should see a lot of target share, a lot of opportunity. Pick up Luke Schoonmaker now. Jalen McMillan found the end zone. He looked good, especially in 3 wide receiver sets. Baker Mayfield and McMillan have a very, very good rapport. So pick up McMillan if he's available. Colby Parkinson, with Puka Nacua going down, Colby Parkinson, pretty much any wide receiver too. Tyler Johnson, Little Witt, Jordan Whittingham, Demarcus Robinson, Demarius Robinson, whatever his freaking name is. All those guys. Pick one of them, pick multiple ones of them, but all those guys should see an increase in terms of targets, especially with an offense that has about 29% vacated targets with Puka Nacua being out. With that being said, folks, I appreciate you tuning in. Remember, like the video, smash the like. We got a bunch of content coming out. We're going to have our reaction video on Wednesday. We're also going to have our process show. We're going to do our lock before kickoff on Thursday, where we tell you guys our favorite pick'ems, our favorite props for the Thursday nighter between the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. And then we'll also have our Saturday process show where we break down the main slate with My Mind as a Weapon sleazeball. Appreciate you guys. Once again, smash the like. Till next time. Peace.